Listen, when you've been teaching Xenobiology for 3 galactic cycles at the prestigious Vortex Academy, you think you've seen everything. My name is Quillian Vex, and trust me, I've watched students from 17 different species attempt to classify organisms that could dissolve their limbs in seconds. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day Human Instructor Maya Banks walked into my classroom with what she casually called her teaching assistant. The morning started normal enough. Well, as normal as it gets when you're dealing with students who breathe methane and others who photosynthesize through their eyeballs. My current class consisted of 6 Zephyrian cadets, 3 molten core residents, and 2 particularly nervous bubble folk who kept deflating every time I raised my voice. Today we'll be studying apex predators from Category 5 Deathworlds, I announced, adjusting my protective suit. The students shifted uncomfortably. Smart kids, that's when Maya knocked. 3 sharp raps that somehow sounded cheerful? Who knocks cheerfully when entering a Xenobiology lab? Come in, I called, expecting another administrator with paperwork. The door slid open, and in walked Maya Banks, all 5 feet nothing of her, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Behind her padded something that made every survival instinct I'd developed over 40 years scream in absolute terror. It was massive. Easily 3 feet at the shoulder, covered in thick, striped fur that screamed, "I am designed to kill you in the most efficient way possible." Yellow eyes that tracked every movement in the room. Retractable claws that clicked against the floor with each step. A jaw that could probably snap a Zephyrian cadet in half without breaking stride. The bubble folk students immediately deflated to quarter size. One of the molten core residents actually started smoking from stress. The Zephyrians, bless their warrior hearts, went straight for their emergency beacons. "Everyone, meet Patches," Mia announced with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for birthday parties. "He's going to help us with today's lesson." Patches. She named this walking nightmare Patches. The creature looked around the room with those predator eyes, yawned, revealing teeth that belonged in a horror holovid, then promptly sat down and began grooming its paw. The casual display of those razor-sharp fangs sent another wave of panic through my students. "Instructor Banks," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady, "what exactly is that?" "Oh, this little guy?" Maya reached down and, to everyone's absolute horror, began scratching behind the creature's ears. It responded by making a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the floor. "He's a tiger. Panthera tigris, to be specific. From Earth." Earth. Of course. The galaxy's most notorious Class 12 death world, where everything from the plants to the weather actively tries to murder you. And here was Maya, treating this apex killing machine like a Leica. "He's purring," she said, noting our expressions. "It means he's happy." Happy. This instrument of death was happy while surrounded by potential prey. "Instructor Vex, you look a little pale. Even for a crystallian." Maya's grin widened. "Don't worry, Patches is completely tame. He's a rescue from the new Singapore Zoo. Aren't you, buddy?" She began scratching under the tiger's chin. The purring got louder. One of my Zephyrian students actually whimpered. "Tame?" I squeaked, then cleared my throat and tried again with more dignity. "Tame? This is a Class 5 apex predator capable of taking down prey 3 times its size." "Oh, absolutely," Maya nodded cheerfully. "In the wild, tigers can leap horizontally up to 30 feet, have a bite force of over 400 pounds per square inch, and can drag a full-grown buffalo up a tree. They're ambush hunters with night vision 6 times better than baseline humans, and their hearing can detect frequencies we can't even imagine." The educational part of my brain wanted to take notes. The survival part was calculating the distance to the emergency exit. "But Patches here," Maya continued, now rubbing the tiger's massive head, "has been socialized since he was a cub. He thinks humans are just really weird, hairless tigers who bring him food. Don't you, sweetie?" The tiger looked up at her with what I could only describe as affection, then turned those golden eyes toward my class. Several students tried to hide behind their desks. "He's actually perfect for today's lesson on predator adaptations," Maya said. "Look at those retractable claws, designed for gripping prey and climbing. Notice the forward-facing eyes for depth perception while hunting. Those canine teeth can pierce thick hide and crush bone." As she spoke, she demonstrated each feature by gently manipulating parts of the tiger's body. The creature tolerated this with patience that seemed completely at odds with its nature. "Of course, the most dangerous thing about tigers isn't their physical capabilities," Maya continued conversationally. "It's their intelligence. They're problem solvers, capable of complex planning and learning from experience. In Earth's history, some tigers became specialized human hunters, learning to avoid traps, vary their attack patterns, and even use psychological warfare." Psychological warfare? From a predator. My tentacles were starting to go numb. The question is, Maya said, looking directly at me with those unsettling human eyes, who wants to volunteer to help demonstrate proper predator handling techniques? The silence in my classroom was so complete you could have heard a neutron drop, when Patches decided to yawn again, stood up, and began walking directly toward my students. To be continued. The next 30 seconds felt like watching a supernova in slow motion. Patches, all 400 pounds of evolutionary perfection, padded toward my cowering students with the casual confidence of someone who had never met anything that could successfully fight back. "Oh, he probably just smells the Canorian fruit snacks," Maya said helpfully. "Tigers have an incredible sense of smell. 50 times better than humans, actually. Canorian fruit snacks. Of course. The one thing every student in the galaxy carries because they taste like happiness and regret had a delicious baby. The same snacks that, apparently, smell interesting to apex predators." Zilla, one of my Zephyrian students, made a sound I'd never heard before. A kind of whistling wheeze that suggested his 3 hearts were attempting to evacuate his body through his throat. "Instructor Vex," he whispered, "should we activate emergency protocols?" Before I could answer, Patches had reached the front row. He stopped directly in front of Blob, one of my bubble folk students, who had compressed himself down to roughly the size of a dinner plate. The tiger lowered his massive head and sniffed. "That's it." Just sniffed. Blob, to his credit, managed to squeak out a greeting. Hello, Mr. Death Beast, sir." And then something happened that redefined my entire understanding of predator behavior. Patches looked up at Maya, made a small chirping sound that somehow came from a creature capable of roaring loud enough to paralyze prey, and then gently bumped his head against Blob's deflated form. "Ah, he likes you." Maya beamed. "Patches, gentle." The tiger responded by lying down next to Blob and beginning to groom his own paw again, completely ignoring the fact that he was surrounded by what should have been a buffet of alien delicacies. "This," I said slowly, "makes no sense whatsoever." "Oh, that's the beauty of domestication," Maya explained, settling cross-legged on the floor next to her 400-pound pet. "See, humans didn't just tame animals by force. We formed partnerships. Mutual relationships. We provided food, shelter, medical care, and in return, they provided companionship, protection, labor." She gestured to Patches, who was now rolling onto his back and exposing his belly to a room full of potential prey animals. "Patches knows he's safe here. Fed, cared for, loved. He has no reason to hunt because his needs are met." Crix, one of my molten core students, finally stopped smoking enough to speak. "But Instructor Banks, what happens when the food stops coming? When survival instincts override domestication?" Maya's smile took on an edge that reminded everyone present exactly which species had conquered a death world. "Well, that's the really interesting part about humans and our relationship with predators. We don't just domesticate them. We become pack leaders." She stood up and made a sharp clicking sound with her tongue. Patches immediately rolled over and sat up, attention focused entirely on her. "Humans are persistence hunters," Maya continued conversationally. "We're not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most heavily armed. But we never, ever give up. We track prey for days, weeks if necessary. We plan, we adapt, we coordinate. Most importantly, we form hierarchies based on respect and cooperation rather than just dominance." She made another gesture, and Patches stood up and walked to her side, sitting precisely at her left heel. "Patches knows I'm the alpha not because I beat him into submission, but because I consistently provide for his needs and make decisions that keep him safe and happy. In return, he trusts me completely. Watch this." Maya walked over to the supply cabinet, opened it, and pulled out a chunk of synthetic protein designed for carnivorous species. She placed it on the floor directly in front of Patches, then held up one finger. "Wait." The tiger stared at the food. His nostrils flared. His muscles tensed slightly. Every predatory instinct in his brain was probably screaming at him to devour the protein immediately, didn't move. "The fascinating thing about apex predators," Maya said, addressing my stunned students, "is that the truly dangerous ones are also the most intelligent. Intelligence means they can learn, adapt, and form complex social relationships." She waited another full minute before saying, "Okay, Patches. Good boy." The tiger immediately grabbed the protein and began eating, but even while feeding, he kept glancing up at Maya for approval. "This is what humans do," Maya concluded. "We don't just conquer our environment. We integrate with it. We form partnerships with creatures that should be our natural enemies and turn them into our closest allies." That's when it hit me. The real reason this demonstration was so terrifying wasn't because Maya had brought a dangerous predator into my classroom. It was because she had proven, definitively, that humans could take the most deadly creatures in existence and convince them to become family pets. Questions? Maya asked brightly. Zilla raised a trembling appendage. Instructor Banks, exactly how many apex predators have humans domesticated? Oh, dozens of species over our history, Maya replied cheerfully. Dogs, cats, horses, falcons, even some bears and crocodiles in certain cultures. We've got humans living peacefully with creatures that could kill them without breaking stride. She paused and grinned that unsettling human grin again. Of course, the really impressive part isn't what we've domesticated. It's what we've decided to keep wild and just coexist with. There are humans on Earth who live in territories shared with creatures far more dangerous than Patches here. They go camping in forests full of predators, swimming in oceans with apex hunters, hiking through mountains populated by things that view humans as mobile snack foods. She scratched Patches behind the ears again. And they call it vacation. The tiger purred louder, completely content in a room full of aliens who represented his natural dietary preferences, when I realized the most terrifying thing of all about humans. It wasn't their technology, their persistence, or even their casual relationship with lethality. It was that they genuinely, honestly, didn't seem to understand why any of this should be frightening. Class dismissed. I needed a very strong drink and a long meditation on exactly what kind of species the galaxy had welcomed into the academic community. Patches yawned, stretched, and followed Maya out of my classroom like the universe's most dangerous therapy animal. Some days, I really hate my job.